Please close the eyes for a moment. Let us remember God and the Masters, praying together. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May God protect us all. May we take food together. May we pray and meditate together. May our study give us knowledge and wisdom. May there be no conflict among us. May there be peace within and everywhere. Om. Amen. I bow to formless divinity, omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient. I bow to all the saints and sages of all times and places. Humbly, I bow to the lineage of Kriya Yoga masters. I bow to each one of you as you are the living power of God. Good evening and welcome to this lecture series. First of all, I would like to send you best wishes for a new year. Within few hours, we are going to start a new year. 2020 has been a difficult year for all of us throughout the world. But this is again a phase of life. And I am sure that new year will bring a new light, new wisdom and inspiration for all of us to continue our life in peace, love and harmony. As we have been discussing 6 spiritual treasures, we have been discussing the 5th one, Shraddha, the faith. Guru Vedanta Vakya Adishu Shraddha. Guru Vedanta Vakya Adishu Vishwasah Shraddha. To have firm belief in the words of masters and scriptures is known as faith. Our faith should be based on experience and we should not have blind faith. Our faith leads us to realization. Gurudev used to say about way to perfection. And what is the way to perfection? Gurudev said, Adau Shraddha Adau Shraddha Tato Sadhu Sangha Tato Sadhana Tato Siddhi. So this is the way to perfection. Adau Shraddha. The first and foremost requirement in spiritual life is Shraddha or the faith. To attain perfection in spiritual life, first we have to have faith. Then second, Sadhu Sangha, the company of realized masters. Then sadhana, practice. And then siddhi. So whatever we practice taught by the masters, finally we attain perfection or siddhi. But everything begins with Shraddha. That's why in Bhagavad Gita it is said, Shraddhavan labhate jnanam. One who has faith will attain knowledge. I remember A small story about faith. There was a businessman. One day he was late for his flight. He reached the boarding gate just before it closed. He was sweating and out of breath. Quickly he scanned his boarding pass at the counter and quickly made his way to the plane. Arriving at his seat, he greeted his companions, a middle-aged woman sitting on the window and a little girl sitting on the aisle seat. After stowing his bag above, he took his place between them. When flight took off, he began a conversation with the little girl. She appeared to be about the same age as his daughter, and she was busy with her coloring book. Businessman asked her a few usual questions such as, "What is your age? How old are you?" She said, "I'm 8 years old." "What are your hobbies?" She said, "I like cartoons, I like drawing," as well as her favorite animal, like, "I like horses, they are pretty, but I love cats more." So he found it strange that such a young girl would be traveling alone, but he kept his thoughts to himself and decided to keep an eye on her to make sure she was okay. About an hour into the flight, the plane suddenly began experiencing extreme turbulence. The pilot came over the PA system and told everyone to fasten their seatbelts, remain calm, as they had encountered rough weather. Several times over the next half an hour, the plane made drastic dips and turns, shaking all the way. Some people began crying, and many, like the woman in the window sitting, were praying intently. Meanwhile, the little girl was sitting quietly beside him in her seat. Her coloring book and crayons were put away neatly in the seat pocket in front of her, and her hands were calmly resting on her legs. Incredibly, she did not seem worried at all. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the turbulence ended. The pilot came on a few minutes later to apologize for the bumpy ride and announce that they would be landing soon. As the plane began to descend, the man said to the little girl, "You are just a little girl, but I have never met a braver person in all my life. Tell me, dear, how is it that you remained so calm while all of us adults were so afraid?" Looking him in the eyes, she said, "My father is the pilot and he is taking me home." Just, it's a very profound sentence. Think about it. Little girl said, "My father is the pilot and he is taking me home." Do we have that faith? She had complete faith in her father and she knew that her father would take care of her no matter whatever happens and would surely take her home. That type of faith we need to have in our spiritual life. We tell that we have faith, but what happens? Our faith is shattered and we don't recognize the power of faith. Rather, we think something might happen. We are afraid so much. When God is the pilot, God will surely take care of us and He is taking. We just need to keep our faith unshattered. If we recognize the power of faith, we will not look for miracles. However, this is about the faith. Now we are going to talk a little bit about the next treasure, sixth one, which is samadhana. Adi Shankar is further telling the sixth quality or treasure, samadhanam kim. What is samadhana? Then he's replying, chitta ekagrata, single pointedness of the mind. What is samadhan? What is this quality? Chitta ekagrata, single pointedness of the mind. This word samadhan has many different meanings in Sanskrit. One meaning of samadhan is compromise. Suppose two people are quarreling. So another friend comes and then he make compromise, talking to both. So that is called samadhana. Another meaning is to bring an end. There is some trouble going on. So bringing that problem to an end is samadhana, solution. In other words, samadhan means solution to a problem. Samadhan means also a state of equanimity or balance. In other words, we can say samadhan means concentration for higher goal or single pointed concentration. So samadhanam kim, chitta ekagrata, single pointedness of the mind or concentration for higher purpose. This is what is samadhana. This samadhan, the word is original root word is dhi, and from that samadhana, dhi root word samadhi has come. Dhi means clearing of doubt when intellect is sama adhana. So clearing of doubt when intellect is in sama or balanced state or composer state. Samadhan means single pointed concentration. Normally, one concentrates hard when one is subjected to fear or desire, etc. For example, examination fear makes the student concentrate on his studies. But this cannot be called samadhana because this is out of fear. One can attain single pointedness by becoming ekanishtha. Ekanishtha means exclusive. There is no second, just one. This is a very interesting or beautiful word, ekanishtha. My spiritual teacher taught me about this, ekanishtha. He told me when I was a college student that if you want to achieve success, whether it is professional life or spiritual life, you have to become ekanishtha. Nishtha, it has come from loyal, loyalty. Eka means one. So just be loyal to one. What does it mean? In spiritual life, you must have only one guru, not too many teachers. Just one teacher, be dedicated to him or her, just one. So one guru, one mantra or one technique, one deity means one form of divinity. Not like that people love, so they worship Lord Ganesha, they worship Mother Durga, Lord Shiva, so everything is worship. Instead of that, just focus on one aspect and you will attain everything. Even in spiritual life, Ekanist means you have to use only one asana, means one seat. Not like that today I am meditating sitting here, tomorrow sitting in another place, and then another day outside in the garden. Keep just one place, one mantra, and also one time. If you fix a time like 5 o'clock in the morning to meditate, every day meditate at same time. So this is called Ekanishtha because when you are focused, it helps you to concentrate better and there is no distraction. So just keep everything one, Ekanishtha, and this is the example of single pointedness. Even those who do japa, they chant some mantra with the help of rosary. So there should be only one rosary, not to change it. There should be only one mantra. And if you remember in our previous class, we heard the story of a devotee who went to his teacher asking for different mantras. So do just remain focused on one. Ekanishtha, exclusively one. There is a story in Mahabharata about Guru Dronacharya. Dronacharya was a legendary and illustrious teacher of Mahabharata era. He taught royal princes of both the clans, Pandavas and Kauravas. It is his teachings which made all his disciples from both the princely clan masters of all the arts related to warfare. They were really good at warfare, like Arjuna, the best archer. Yudhishthir was proficient with the sword, Bhima with the mace, Gada. However, once Arjuna was hunting in a forest. He was chasing a wild boar. So Arjuna shot a number of arrows targeting the wild boar, but he could not succeed in killing the wild boar. All of a sudden, an arrow hit the boar and boar collapsed. Arjuna was surprised but angry also, as who killed his hunt and looked for the unknown and expert hunter. From the forest appeared Ekalavya in loincloths, who claimed of killing the wild boar. On the killing of his own hunt by someone else, Arjuna became very angry. But soon, senior fellows from both the sides cooled down the situation and avoided a big disaster. Because Arjuna was getting angry quickly. But this incident disturbed the inner peace of Prince Arjuna, that there is another archer who is superior to him. In the Hindu epic Mahabharata, Ekalavya is a young prince of Nishada, a forest tribe. His father, Hirnadhanu, was the general in the army of King of Magadha or King Jarasandha. They were almost equal to Kshatriyas, the warriors, although tribals, but equal to warriors. So after the death of his father, Ekalavya became the king of Shrangavera state. He raised a very powerful army of tribals, Nishads, and extended the boundaries of his state. Ekalavya wished to learn archery in the Gurukulam of Dronacharya. But Guru Dronacharya rejected his request, as his Gurukulam was meant for princes and royal children only. Then Ekalavya embarks upon an idea of self-study by installing a clay statue of Drona, his guru. So when he was rejected to be accepted as the student, he asked for some dust from the feet of his master, and he was allowed to take it. So with that dust, he created a beautiful statue of his own guru and started practicing. Surprisingly, he attained a level of skill equivalent to that of Arjuna, Dronacharya's most preferred and talented pupil. Another story goes with this context that once a wild dog was barking very furiously. It disturbed the concentration of Ekalavya in his practice. So angry and furious Ekalavya filled the mouth of the dog with 7 arrows in fast succession without injuring the dog, which silenced the dog's barking. On this miraculous act of archery, Dronacharya and Pandava princess were surprised and shocked. Who could do such a Great work. Searching the forest, they found a dark-skinned man dressed all in black, his body besmeared with filth and his hair in entangled locks. It was Eklavya, who introduced himself to them as a pupil of Drona. Jealous and worried that Eklavya had excelled him in the skill of bow, Arjuna suggested Drona take action for this treachery. Arjuna also reminded Drona, his guru, of his promise that Arjuna would that Guru would not allow any other student to become equivalent of Arjuna. Human nature is jealousy, it is everywhere and in each period of time. So Dronacharya acknowledged Arjuna's claim and went with the princess to look for Ekalavya. He found Ekalavya as always diligently practicing archery. Looking at the Guru Drona, Ekalavya prostrated himself and claps the teacher's hands awaiting his order. Drona asked Ekalavya for a Guru Dakshina that a student owes his teacher upon the completion of his training. Ekalavya replied that there was nothing he would not give to his teacher, because as a devoted student, whatever Guru wants, we give it. Dronacharya asked for Ekalavya's right thumb, knowing that its loss will hamper Ekalavya's ability to pursue archery. Ekalavya, however, cheerfully and without hesitation severed his thumb and handed it to Drona. For his part, Arjuna was relieved to find that the crippled Ekalavya could no longer shoot with his former skill and facility. For this act, Dronacharya is accused of, in the modern time, by the secularist, communist, reformist scholars with discrimination. But these scholars are totally ignorant about Drona's foresightedness and his concern for the welfare of the human race. He had divine sight. Seeing Ekalavya as highly talented, Dronacharya blessed Ekalavya to master archery without thumb. Can you imagine? Ekalavya became expert in this method also and invented a new art of archery by index and center finger. From here onwards, a new method of archery was born, and Ekalavya was the inventor of this art, which is followed by the world today and which is treated as modern art of archery. However, so Ekalavya was Ekanishta. How Ekanishta? He was rejected by his guru, but he considered the guru as the clay statue of his guru as the presence of guru. That is what is faith. And with that, he practiced archery. So his mind was totally focused. This is what is Chitta Ekagrata, completely focused on one goal to master the archery, nothing else. Samadhanam kim Chitta Ekagrata. So here Chitta is the source of all thoughts. Chitta means also mind. Ordinarily, when we say Chitta, Chitta means memory, but Chitta is also used for mind. Scientists have concentration, but it is always for the higher goal. So when Adi Shankar is telling Chitta Ekagrata, Eka Agrata. Eka means one, Agra means top, tip, or the point. So Agrata means pointedness. So what is the meaning? One pointedness, Samadhana. Chitta here means mind or memory. It can be used for both. As Adi Shankar is using this word Chitta instead of mind. Why? Because he could have said that Mana Ekagrata, but he said Chitta Ekagrata. Why? Because all the thoughts come from memory. Therefore, chitta is the source of all thoughts and it is the source of mind. Mind means a bundle of thoughts. But from where thoughts are coming? All the thoughts are emerging from the chitta, which is like a reservoir having hundreds, thousands of thoughts. The term ekagrata refers to concentration of the mind. Means, so chitta ekagrata means single-mindedness, pinpointed concentration, or undisturbed state of calmness, one-pointedness of mind. The chitta is for both mind and memory, it can be used. The state, chitta ekagrata is the state where not many thoughts come and the mind is dwelling on one thought. Therefore, samadhana can be taken in a simple way to mean concentration for a higher goal. This concentration is a spiritual treasure and not like that of a scientist. We are talking of samadhana. The scientists also have concentration, but it is for some research work. In essence, we can say chitta ekagrata is samadhana. Many things have entered into our memory, but we have ignored or forgotten the true memory. The true thing that we should never forget. We forget we are children of God. We forget we are divine, but we keep many different thoughts in our mind. Therefore, chitta ekagrata means to remember only one thing and nothing else. That I am God, I am child of God. Best example of ekagrata, one pointedness, is again, example is Arjuna. Concentration of Arjuna in Mahabharata, when all the princes, they were about to finish their education with Acharya Drona. So as an examination, there was a test. What was done? That Acharya Drona, he kept a bird, not a real bird, but a toy bird on the top of the tree. And he asked all the students to come and shoot the arrow. And the bird's eye had to be pierced. Only Arjuna had that concentration. So when the student was coming, the teacher was asking, what do you see? And one student said, I see the tree, I see the bird, I see the leaves moving with the wind, and so on. So each one was having different perception. But when Arjuna came, Guru Dronacharya asked Arjuna, what do you see? He said, I see only bird's eye. That is the target. This is chitta ekagrata. This is the concentration, one-pointedness. Similarly, we see many things in the world, but our concentration is not to that level where we can just remain focused on one aspect. I am God. Gurudev used to say, always remain in fontanel. Gurudev also taught, and our master Guruji is also teaching, constantly reminding us, watch your breath, just focus on that. Means not to concentrate, but remain only conscious of that, but we are not able to do that. That is chitta ekagrata. Let the mind remain in one thought, in one object, just one. A lot of our energy is exhausted in entertaining various thoughts, chasing after different pleasures, reacting to various situations, and pursuing the various demands that life situation make upon us. Most of our energy is spent in all these shores. The practice of samadhana helps conserve mental energy so that it can be applied to creative or profitable fields. A person now wants to focus all his energy on the pursuit of knowledge, realization. Samadhan means one pointedness or concentration of the mind. It does not mean that one has to withdraw oneself from the activities and simply focus the mind on one thing. It is not the case. You do your duties, you perform your actions, remaining focused on top in God. Rather, it is desirable that the mind be focused upon the pursuit of self knowledge in God. Thus, one's life becomes a means to the pursuit of self knowledge. This is not necessary to deny life in order to pursue knowledge. On the other hand, one makes whatever life one is living a means of pursuing self knowledge. Live the way you are living. You perform all your duties, but remain in God. Don't forget God. That's what Gurudev always used to say. You're taking food, remember God. You're talking to family members, remember God. You're working in the office, remember God. Even he said you're making love with your partner, remember God in that. This is why Lord Krishna teaches Karma Yoga in Bhagavad Gita. One does not have to give up one's activities, rather, we are told to perform the activities in a manner such that those very actions become a means of knowledge. Sometimes we do not have the choice of giving up things or getting away from situations. We can either resist what we are required to do or turn that very action into the means of knowledge. Those who are spiritual, they always use the opportunity. Every moment is a new opportunity. Sage Vyasa, when he wrote his commentary on Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, so he has described in the first sutra, he described the 5 states of mind. What are those 5 states? I'll not go into detail, but just to give you an idea, the mind always remains, the mind does not remain in one state. It always fluctuates. So what are those 5 states? First is called Kshipta. Kshipta means agitated mind or scattered mind. Most of us, we have that. Hundreds or thousands of thoughts continuously bothering us. Another state, second one is called Mudha. Mudha means dull mind or lethargic mind. It is like lazy people, don't want to do anything and cannot think. The mind is so dull at so gross level that they cannot think more than what they eat, sleep, and that's all. The third state of mind is known as Vikshipta. Vikshipta means partially focused. Most of the time it is agitated, but sometimes you can focus. And fourth state is known as Ekagra. So here comes Samadhana. Ekagra means one point. They are very well focused. Whatever they do, they are focusing on that only, no other thought. And fifth state of mind is Niruddha, means fully arrested. Means they have gone beyond the play of mind. They can switch off the mind, means they can enter the state which is completely calm and still they can perform the action. So Ekagra is concentration. Niruddha is mostly related to deeper state of meditation. So these are the 5 states of mind. And they are explained very well in Yoga Sutra of Patanjali. And Guruji also has written the commentary on that. Very often people ask that what is the difference between a holy person and an ordinary person? It is the difference of mind only. Both have the same mind, but the holy person has transformed the mind and ordinary person are still under the influence of mind. So let me give you some idea about two aspects, monkey mind and monk's mind. Most of us have monkey mind. Even I had that. Monkey mind means not staying in one thought, continuously jumping from one thought to other thought. So you see on the left side on the screen, this is monkey mind. And this right side is a monk mind. Now what is the difference? Monkey mind is overwhelmed by multiple branches, but monk's mind is focused on the root of the issue. So if you consider a tree, so monkey mind means jumping from one branch to other branch means thoughts. But monk's mind is focused on the root. Where is the root? Urdhva Moolam Adha Shakham in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. The body is considered like inverted tree. The root is above and branches are spreading below. Monkey mind coasts in the passenger seat, but monk's mind lives intently and consciously. Monkey mind complains, compares, criticizes. Monk's mind is compassionate, caring, collaborative. Monkey mind is related to overthinking. It overthinks and procrastinates. I want to meditate tomorrow. I'm not feeling well today. Maybe I'll do tomorrow. So always postponing things and overthinking. Too much of thoughts, too much of analysis. But monk's mind analyzes the situation and articulates. Monkey mind is distracted by small things, very easily agitated. Monk's mind is disciplined mind. Monkey mind is short-term gratification. I want this, I want that, and I'm happy with that. But monk's mind is long-term gain, always thinking about the higher goal, long-term gain. Monkey mind is always demanding and entitled. They feel entitled that we need this and we deserve it. Monk's mind is enthusiastic, determined, and patient. Monkey mind changes on a whim. Suddenly a thought comes and out of him you do something or change your view. But monk's mind commits to a mission, a vision, or goal. It does not change the goal. Once decided, following that. Monkey mind amplifies negatives and fears, and monk's mind works on breaking down the negatives and fears. Monkey mind is self-centered and obsessed, but monk's mind is self-care for service of others. Monkey mind is multitasking, doing many things at a time and not achieving anything. Monk's mind is single tasking. One task, finish it, go to the next. Monkey mind is controlled by anger, worry, and fear. But monk's mind is controlled. It controls and engages energy wisely. It never becomes angry, worried. Monkey mind does whatever it feels good. But monk's mind seeks self-control and mastery. Monkey mind is always looking for pleasure, and monk's mind looks for meaning. Monkey mind looks for temporary fixes, but monk's mind is looking for genuine solutions. So this is a big difference. It is just transformation of mind. Otherwise, the hardware is same. Only software is updated for a monk. So this is the difference. Now we understood monkey mind and monk's mind. So let's think, what type of mind do we want to develop or transform? So we are coming towards the end of this session. We'll just review what we discussed during this retreat, this series of talks. In this series, we discussed 6 spiritual treasures. So just to give a review, Shama, Dama, Uparama or Uparati, Titiksha, Shraddha and Samadhana. So these are the 6 qualities. Shama means control over the mind. Dama is control over the sense organs. Uparama means observance of one's own duty. Titiksha means tolerance or forbearance. Shraddha means faith in the words of master and scriptures. Samadhana is concentration or single pointedness of mind. In order to develop concentration, there are many yogic practices. Sometimes we do Trataka. Some people, they put circles on the wall. So there are many circles, and in the middle there is one dot. So you are concentrating on that. What does it mean? You're focusing your mind. In some practices, they teach to look at the flame of a candle or lamp to keep your mind focused. And in Kriya Yoga, we always keep our mind in fontanelle. During the practice, we focus on breath in the chakras and divine qualities. So this is all samadhana to develop concentration for higher goal. And Shraddha and Samadhana. By constantly asking ourselves, what is our real nature or true being? What is the real nature of creation that we perceive? We will gradually lose attachments in the worldly affairs. We will then naturally develop concentration on the ultimate truth. This is called samadhana. Samadhana comes from the past tendencies which have been carried by us during this birth. Samadhana will increase the power of discrimination, viveka. Increased power of discrimination will further foster samadhana. Because when you use your intellect, you can be more focused. Shraddha means faith, and concentration, samadhana, will help achieve titiksha, forbearance. Titiksha bestows uparati, observing one's own duty, and uparati in turn will cause dhamma, control over the senses, which ultimately brings about shama, control over the mind. So they all are connected. When we start practicing them, so they all take us towards the goal of self-realization. The collection of these six virtues is called Shama Adi, Shat Sampatti, a treasure of six virtues. And acquiring these virtues constitutes the third step in sadhana. Because if you read the text, Tattva Bodha, it begins the fourfold qualification: Viveka, Vairagya, Shama Adi, Shat Sampatti, and then Mumukshutvam. So, Vivek means discrimination between real and unreal. Then Vairagya, dispassion. And third, which we discussed during this series, Sham, etc., six treasures. And it leads to that attitude of Mumukshutvam, intense desire for liberation. Until that comes to our mind, we cannot proceed quickly. We will practice, we will struggle, but until we have that attitude, I want liberation only, nothing else, then only we'll attain realization. However, so these are the six treasures of sincere seeker needed for a spiritual life. And if you want to read more about it, then refer to this book, Tattva Bodha, and Guruji has written commentary on this book, Path of Knowledge. You can read it. It will help you to understand the spiritual life, the requirements and qualifications we have to develop as a student. And then we can progress very quickly in our spiritual life. So this is about the six spiritual treasures, Shama Adi Shat Sampatti. I hope this will help you to practice more sincerely, and we will progress, and one day surely we will achieve self-realization. Now it's time for our meditation. And we have finished our series with this talk today, and next time we'll take a new series of talks, some other topic. Please sit straight. Wherever you are sitting, just keep your spine, head, and the whole body in a straight line. Close your eyes. Gently become aware of your body, but relaxed. Please take your attention to the spine. Inside the spine, three pranic channels, Ida, Pingala, Sushumna, subtle channels of pranic energy. Bottom of the spine is the bottom center, Muladhara chakra. Top of the spine, top of the head is the fontanelle, Sahasrara. In between, there are 5 more chakras, energy centers. Now, bring your attention to the breath. From top of the head, then concentrate in between the eyebrows. Calmly observe your breath. One breath means one life. Focusing on the breath itself is samadhana, single pointedness of mind. Each inhalation and exhalation, feel love for God, every breath is presence of divine. Gently, you will experience that breath becomes feeble, slow, more subtle. Pacify the mind, we will practice deep breathing technique from top of the head to bottom of the spine, consciously moving our breath, moving the prana. With the help of slow, long, and deeper breath as per your capacity, we will practice. When we inhale, we feel that all the positive qualities are entering, and with exhalation, all negativities are going away from us. With inhalation, we will feel love within. With exhalation, we will experience peace. Please inhale slow, long, deep. Love. Exhale. Peace. Inhale. Love. Exhale. Peace. Inhale. Love. Exhale. Peace. Inhale. Peace. Exhale. Love. Inhale. Peace. Exhale. Love. Inhale. Peace. Exhale. Love. Inhale. Love. Exhale. Peace. Inhale. Love. Exhale. Peace. Normal conscious breath. Breath is more subtle, more feeble now. Body is completely steady. Mind is tranquil. Remaining in the inner space inside the cranium. Meditate in this silence. Just be an observer, drashta, sakshi bhava. absolute bliss, state of calmness. Bring your attention in between the eyebrows. Whole body is relaxed, mind is full of peace. Maintain this state of peace and calmness in all your activities. Praying to God and the Masters. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May all become happy and healthy, loving, noble, and compassionate. Let there be no suffering or sorrow. Let there be more love, peace, and harmony among us and in the entire creation. Om. Amen. Once again, wish you all a very happy new year. Praying to God and Masters that this new year will bring you and for your family more love, peace, good health, prosperity. May all the difficulties of this year be eliminated, and may we attain wisdom, bring a better world this year. Once again, thank you all. I bow to you all and see you next time with another series of talk. Thank you all.